Hi, Mark. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the December 15th, 2021 meeting of the Intergovernmental Cooperation Authority for Harrisburg. We are missing one of our board members, Carla Hodges, and we believe she is coming. We have Mark, who has joined us, and if you remember at last month's meeting, Dan Connolly informed us that that was his last meeting and that there would be no one in attendance in the ex officio capacity for this meeting. So we are good to go. Next on the agenda is the approval of minutes, which I hope everyone has had a chance to review. As we did a couple months ago, I'd like to ask for a combined motion to approve the minutes for the monthly meeting of the ICA. Yes, Kathy.
Before we get there, Madam Chairman, I have one question that I'd like to address to council. There's a reference in there to the fact that the agreement with the city had not been executed because it had to be approved by the court. I'm being a nitpick, Anna Marie. Is it that it wasn't executed or that it wasn't finalized? My understanding was that we had signed off.
It has not been signed, so that's executed. It has been finalized. Language is done. So the only thing that remains is signature
By the court.
by the parties.
Yeah,
Oh, the
It has
part,
not-
it has not been signed off on for us yet.
No,
Thank you.
but
That's,
everybody has approved the text.
yes. And I
It's
would
the
agree with
signing.
that. I was just picking on
That's it.
that very, very narrow issue. So with that, Madam Chairman, if
Okay.
you'll accept a combined motion to approve both sets of minutes, I will so move.
excellent. Thank you. A second.
Second.
Thank you, Doug. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I can't remember, I thought it read that we were trying to get the issue with the courts until those were resolved. That's what the city had asked.
But my understanding was that those are now resolved, are they not?
Not as to the agreement.
There are
There
other
are
issues.
all kinds of issues that have resolved themselves.
I'd have to
Okay.
look at the exact wording. It wasn't that the court was approving the language, right? Neil?
Now,
No, of course not.
If I may,
Yes,
so when this agreement is executed, it creates an exit by operation.
Right.
And what the stakeholders are at is before that happens automatically, they want to text long-term things that came from this one. And that's the problem. It's because there's a lot of stakeholders and a lot of things. So that petition will go to the board. For consideration, that's the new language. And that's sort of the back and forth. of this thing. But when that petition is finally approved by the board, final agreed stipulated language for the board. Once that's approved, final approval, then the agreement is signed. So that, and so we would have both things, the exit, or whatever.
Okay, I was just losing track. I knew we had signed off on something and I thought it was on the agreement, not the thing that was going to the court. Not
I
this.
suffer an injury, there's no one else.
Yeah, because there are enough pieces to this that unless you're looking at documents, you're not necessarily following it all. So I just wanted to clarify. That's all. Thank you. Appreciate it.
moving on to the chair's report. Brief, but hi, Carla. How are you? We got started, but you didn't miss anything except approval of minutes. This is, not surprisingly, our last meeting of 2021. And like 2022, it was disheartening that we weren't able to significantly move the dial for the citizens of Harrisburg, due in large part to the unwillingness of the current administration to engage in any matter of concern. No matter what happened, this board was faithful to its mission of oversight and professional in its encounters with the city. Charlie DeBrunner and his staff, Bill and Michael, stand as stellar resources and amazing stewards of the facts about the financial scenario of the city. Thanks must also go to Marita Kelly, whose role as Act 47 coordinator and friend filled in voids of information. And for those who may not know, she is supposedly retired, yet she signed up to help Mayor-elect Williams' transition team. A true gem. Thank you. There is more hope. We welcomed Carla to the board this year, which brought the voting members to full complement. We look forward to welcoming the new ex officio appointee for Mayor-elect Williams' administration this January. Most importantly, we can look forward to 2022 developing as a cooperative, productive relationship with the new administration filled with optimism for the citizens of Harrisburg and its citizens. That's all I have. Next, we move on to discussion of the 5-year plan compliance, which we did talk about at the last meeting. And we've been discussing this issue for the past 6 to 8 weeks. We did send a letter to Mayor Pappenfuse on November 10th, explaining in detail the variation from the submitted and approved 5-year financial plan regarding the Neighborhood Services Fund. Anna Marie, I know you talked to Neil because we wanted follow-up since we haven't heard anything from the administration relative to that letter. Do you have a sense?
So before I knew you were coming, I was going to recount our conversation. But now that you're here,
I believe I told you before.
well, Neil and I spoke after the letter, and I will, if I misstate, stop me. I will paraphrase everything, but the gist of it is that we are not to anticipate an answer because of the transition for a number of reasons. Staff is disappearing. I think is probably appropriately the correct word. He has now, he's working on transition, which is a whole nother thing. For anybody who's been through a government transition, there's a lot that goes on. So he's working on that. He has no knowledge of future events, no knowledge of future people. So there's not a lot that they're going to be able to tell us. And so there will be, presumably our response is going to come with the new administration. Is that about the gist of it?
That's it. And so I had our first transition meeting today, and I have some more coming. You guys are on the list of things that have to be responded to. Apart from the other thing on the list that have to be responded to. And so, but that's one of the items. I think the reality is someone's going to sit down with a letter, 5-year plan. Talk to them. I go with who's going to be the engine. Going forward. That's really going to be who's doing it. That's the side.
Well, thank you, Neil, for sharing that. Again, I will say it's disappointing that the mayor chose not to engage or communicate with us at all, because that doesn't have anything to do with the transition. Anna Marie, you also are fairly familiar with the Amvac deal.
I was just about to say, the one thing I didn't say is that the Amvac transaction occurred, closed. And so the savings have been reaped, I guess is the right word. The money has been spent, and that piece of the whole puzzle is closed. Which is not the thing that we were waiting for when we were talking about. They're unrelated.
Yeah.
So that's now happened, which is great.
Thank you.
Sorry.
To see if there's other stuff too, please chime in. And just because I'm trying to keep front of mind all of the issues that we have in front of us. I also want to mention that we never received acknowledgement of or a response to our October 28th letter urging the mayor to move forward swiftly in accelerating public participation in the potential expenditures of the American Rescue Plan monies. So I realize that that is something that Mayor-elect Williams will move on expeditiously, I'm sure, because that caught is ticking. Um, Anything else I have moves into the transition team. Is there anything else that anyone wants to bring up with the 5-year plan, where we stand?
That's the question that's maybe rhetorical.
Sure.
What is the operation of the current plan next year when January hits and the new mayor is sworn in? Is there an operation by which the 5-year plan immediately is open outside what otherwise may have been the previous cycle?
And my understanding is, and I don't have it in front of me, is that Act 124, which is our state law that created us, does have in it clause directly related to a changing of mayor in this situation. And what it would normally do is it, in essence, it reopens the 5-year plan. Whenever that occurs, it doesn't just necessarily happen at the beginning of a term, it can happen midterm as well. But this one's happening at the beginning of a term, and it gives the new mayor an opportunity to revise the plan. However, as you know, by our mutual agreement between the parties, we're almost at the point in the calendar cycle where the mayor, whichever mayor, would have had an opportunity to present a revised 5-year plan. And so those two occurrences, the occurrence of a new administration revisiting the plan and the annual update of the plan, are not so far off. There is a slight difference in the scheduling because of the agreement. So the ICA will have to make, the board will have to make a determination whether or not to just wait until the April deadline for the annual submission, or whether they will communicate with the administration that they would like something before that. But normally, in the normal course of events, when there's a change of mayor, that automatically reopens the 5-year plan.
Because ordinarily, the new update would have been due in this quarter, at the end of the year. But because of the way we changed everything.
We changed it because it doesn't line up to the way that the finances of a third-class city necessarily operate. The end of the calendar year, the end of the fiscal year, is not a good time to be drafting any update to a 5-year plan. And also because that's the time when the budget is normally done, and the 5-year plan has to reflect the budget as well. So what we've agreed to, the parties have agreed to, the normal course of it is that they would use the end of the calendar year to do the budgetary work, and then begin the new calendar year and start drafting our revised 5-year plan. This year is even more unusual because of the change of administrations. We also have what is in essence a placeholder budget that was approved for 2022 by City Council. That is not the final 2022 budget, and there is an opportunity at the beginning of the calendar year for the Williams administration to revisit that budget. In fact, they must revisit that budget, and they will, and that will, in essence, be their first priority at the beginning of 2022. And whatever decisions are made between the administration and City Council budgetarily will then feed into a revised 5-year plan, which I still assume we will have by April. So that will be somehow flesh itself out.
You said you have by when? It's already.
April. April is the agreed upon deadline, annual deadline for submission of a draft revised 5-year plan. It won't be there before you know.
Yeah.
As we sit here in December.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I would like to invoke the prerogative of the chair and skip over the COH transition for a few minutes and have Jeffrey give the authority manager's update.
Thank you. I'd be pleased to do so. If you have all had an opportunity, we did have our monthly financial report of the authority delivered to the members. It's a little off cycle because we had an early meeting in November and now we've had an early meeting in December. So this is actually the November 30th report, sort of between the two meetings, but that's good enough. You'll notice that we had a starting financial balance from the ICA board of $174,025.27. And we had a end of this period balance of $166,057.06, which means that there is still sufficient funding. We have our full allocation for the current state fiscal year, and we are working on things that we have to do. And so we have resources if the board wants to call on them in the new calendar year to assist, for example, in evaluation of the 5-year plan or whatever other moves that the Williams administration takes. This is not our final financial report for the calendar year 2021. There will be one that comes after this meeting, and you'll see that at your January ICA board meeting. So we'll get back on track in January. I don't know if there's any questions about the finances of the ICA. Be happy to answer them. If not, I think you all also received a copy of the ICA's audit, the audit of our activities. That was done without comment or note. Our auditor firm, ZA, don't ask me to, I always butcher the name, so I will not try to pronounce it. ZA completed the audit for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. And that has been presented to the board and will be presented to the General Assembly as part of our annual report, and that's a required step. So I'm glad that it has taken care of. And then the next thing, obviously, is a mention of our annual report that I just alluded to. And we will file with the General Assembly by the end of December, the annual report. And I think I sent you a copy by email of last year's report, and I'm sure you were all extremely excited by it. It contains things like our membership, our bylaws, our financial transactions. And I'm sure the General Assembly is waiting with bated breath to read our 2021 annual report, but we will get it to them on time by the end of the year, as is our requirement. And thank you very much for your patience as we work on those documents.
And the thing that's different about this report, this is essentially a report on the ICA, not a report that we make, which is we call it 203, which goes to.
Yes, and that's important. That comes later in the year.
Right. And the other difference is that this report goes to the appropriation chairs.
Correct.
Which they are not part of the appointing body. So the other documents that we send go to them. This one also gets copied to them.
Sure.
But we bring in a few more characters just to make it interesting.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions? It's not a feat of creative writing.
No, just time management, not
Yeah.
creative writing.
I just have a question on the annual report. Pardon me for not recalling, at the last meeting, did we authorize already for Jeffrey to prepare and submit the report? And if not, I'd be happy to.
I believe you did, but it's not in front of me, so if you want to do it again, that's okay.
Let's dot our i's and cross our t's.
Correct.
Let's go ahead.
So,
So would you like to?
Could I offer a motion to authorize the authority manager to prepare the report and to allow the chair to sign off on it and submit it in accordance with Act 124?
Second,
I'll second.
all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks.
Thank you for thinking of that. So now back to the transition. Some updates have come out. I did mention just recently that Marita is serving on the transition team, heading up the administrative team, I think, if I remember correctly. I did have the opportunity to meet with Dan Hartman, the transition team executive director, over coffee a couple of weeks ago. I'll share that I'm encouraged, and I look forward to you all getting to meet him as well. He might be coming. He said he was going to try. Since Neil scampered over here, I'm hopeful that he's on his way as well.
He had a meeting after he went.
Pardon?
He was in another meeting after he went.
Oh, okay. So you let him off on time. Thank you. But I am encouraged on several fronts. He does seem to have endless energy, which is a wonderful trait. he is already focused on establishing those relationships and collaborations that have fallen by the wayside of the current administration. And I think that that is certainly encouraging when we look at what we can do in partnership with the county, with the chamber, with the legislature, closer work with DCED. So I think that's a good sign. And through several other reports, I've heard that he's a professional manager who is guiding the transition with a steady, respectful hand and attention to inclusivity. And there are many other positive attributes that will serve him well as we migrate to the new administration. He comes most recently, if I remember correctly, from the Department of Transportation, and he was a part of Wolf's transition team when he took office. So if he comes before we adjourn, I'll introduce him to anybody, and if not, if he comes in at the end, he can have cookies, which I think we're going to share with everyone here, because I don't know that we want to eat all those. Other than that, it's coming fast. January 3rd will be here before we know it. As I mentioned before, Ralph and I have had a wonderful meeting with the two new city council members, Ralph and Jocelyn. And so I think they are going to step in well to take the place of Wanda and Ben, because they really are trying to soak up every bit of information they can. And I think that, again, is a wonderful attribute when someone wants to learn before they speak. And so that'll be a good addition. And they, on January 3rd, after they're sworn in, they'll go into session and they'll elect their new leadership as well. So we should learn about that probably through the bird on the 3rd.
We'll be there.
You'll be there. Is there any other insight or observations on the transition from fellow board members?
There was some discussion at last meeting about preparing some sort of a
Correct.
correspondence on behalf of this body to the new administration with a checklist, whatever, wish list, whatever. We're going to start. working on
Yep,
that.
sorry, I was supposed to put that in there.
That's all right.
I asked you both if you wouldn't mind doing
No
that,
problem.
but yes, we don't want to leave anything dangling. No
If there's
hanging
anything-
chads, no nothing.
If there's anything
No
in particular you want
participles.
to make sure that I address, shoot me an email
Okay.
and remind me.
And I did promise that to Dan, that we'd be working
Okay.
on it. So it is a summary of every issue that we have outstanding with the
So
administration
Jeff's working on the 207 report and so sometime.
in
It should-
January.
Yeah, well, it should be not a problem. to have it very quickly.
Good, great. And it really is just what we have outstanding, where we found issue and what we hope they will work on and resolve.
Do you want to do it as what we have outstanding, or do you also want to include, do as if we had our brothers, since these are the issues that we have looked at the most, even if there isn't anything outstanding related to that.
I think we'll leave that up. I would suggest leaving that up to you,
I
depending on
think we
what
covered,
time.
I think over the course of time, the board has sort of had a finite list of concerns. So there's the longer list, but it's still pretty finite. I think,
It's the same list.
yeah, it's the same.
It's a
list.
certain
Yeah,
repetitive.
yep, exactly. Yeah.
If I may, I think our list really had sort of three essential themes.
Yes.
And I think the work product that's kind of come out of those themes has been relatively organic. It started back in time when we used to have regular monthly meetings with the mayor. And I have to imagine that kicking off with the new administration in 2022, I imagine there would be a similar like organic result of priorities from the incoming mayor. She's going to have a unique set of challenges, and some of the challenges that have been plaguing Harrisburg for many years are sort of in the rearview mirror at this point. So I think that the themes for the authority remain promoting the financial recovery and the long-term prosperity of the city as regards to its financial stability. And like I said, I think those issues that are the ones that press upon those goals are really going to develop organically over the course of the next year and more.
The neighborhood services fund to me would be worth mentioning, which you've been talking about. I've been harping on OPED, and I'd certainly like to see somebody's attention pointed to that, because as I understand it, it's still not resolved. And anything else that we just think about kind of automatically, I think I would ask Anna Marie to improve.
Right. I agree.
Those two are on my list.
Yeah.
I think we have all the correspondence which we can hold.
I'll go back through the
Yeah.
old correspondence and make sure I pick up everything.
Yeah.
that's still
Things that
exactly.
communicate to previous administration. That's basically the best way to do it.
And, there's always pluses and minuses to any administration. And if there's really one big optimistic, maybe two big optimistic notes to strike. One, Audrey gave a preview as to the optimistic note from her meeting with Dan Hartman. And the second one is, when is the last time a third-class city in Pennsylvania, walking into a new administration after an election, just paid down how many millions of dollars of long-term debt, is looking ahead and within the next 5 years of having zero general obligation debt, potentially. It's really a different picture than it was 5 years ago, which is different than it was 12 years ago. So,
And still has money to spend because there's still money available.
and there's going to be money available within the confines of the city, plus coming in from the ARPA funding and additional sources that may come out of the pipeline from the state and county in the coming year. So if there's sort of a second optimistic note to strike, I think the issues that the incoming administration is going to be dealing with are going to be different than in the past. And as a theme, one of those sets of issues is going to be about how to identify and then take advantage of opportunities, not simply figuring out how to keep things afloat. So I think our role in the way we can support the administration in achieving those objectives and achieving the authority's mission is going to be a little bit different than maybe we've seen in the past when the issues were different.
Well said. Thank you.
Fingers crossed that over the course of the next year and then the next couple of years, that citizens will be able to look back and be pleased with what we have to show as a community for the work that's being put in today.
Any other comments?
I did raise at our last meeting that there's obviously this new budget that will be coming out after the first of the year. The completion of the 2022 budget cycle is something that generally the ICA board reviews the budget proposal. It's a very short time window in January where that would be an opportunity. But I'll work to make sure that we can at least get you all copies of what's presented, and we'll try to attend whatever budget workshops may or may not happen if we're not on a normal budget cycle like we were in the previous fiscal years. We'll see what we can get and what information we can get. So at least you're well informed as to what this first budget from the new administration will look. It'll obviously, it's important because it sets some of the priorities and some of the spending that's going to come at the beginning at least.
Yes, so those first few weeks will be very important as we figure out even with whom to establish relationships and who will share. Next on the agenda is other business. Is there anything that authority members have under other business? I think one thing we might want to consider and think about is, do we revisit our listening session energies that we wanted to put forth and or something on the economic development front? So I think we can take that into consideration, maybe at our January meeting, to see where that might be helpful and useful to the new administration.
I think that's an excellent point of view. If I could just for a moment, just remind everybody, we weren't all there from the beginning. This board had as two of its original priorities, the development of a comprehensive economic development plan for the city. And it was willing to take some action to try to make sure that that happened. And this board also had a priority to do some sort of grassroots outreach, listening, or some sort of communication with the citizens of the city to try to ascertain their input into the things that needed to happen in the city. And I know that for a number of reasons that never came to pass, including COVID. But those are obviously the two early priorities for this board that you're suggesting the board discuss again in 2022. So I think that's an excellent point. Not to let them completely fall off the radar.
Too bad, had we been able to been well into the informational sessions, we might have had some good groundwork for the ARPA fund allocations, what the needs are of the citizens. Public comment. Jeffrey, will you?
Okay,
take it over?
sure. We have Mr. Epstein.
Yeah, I had to fight for
Don't make us feel bad.
Yeah, on the other business, I would just point out, Audrey, and actually, some of you are totally audible people in the audience. And so I don't know, if you have an audio recording, it doesn't look like there's a stenographer, cities that you're filming. Been in meetings the last 2 years with masking. I'm just saying, some folks talk down, some up. I can't. Nobody, you just had a meeting on it, hear 50% of it. So it's an observation, not a criticism. I have three quick observations. The 5-year plan seems to be unsettled, and in my mind, with the next administration, there are two of the priorities, because there seems to be a lot of unanswered questions and unresolved issues. This seemed to somewhat, this predated the primary. You can't mandate cooperation, but without it, it's difficult to make progress. I mean, we've all identified issues, whether it's accounting standards, neighborhood services, OPEB. I'm frustrated as a member of the public that we've been in neutral for a long period of time. I just don't see how that's acceptable. On the second notice, I don't know if we're going to be part of this litigation, but we've sued the SRBC and we were testifying on Thursday. There's a letter of agreement, memorandum of understanding between DEP and the city of Harrisburg. We encourage the SRBC to be in touch with you. We identified 3 issues that should be in the LOU and MOU. 2 don't concern you. One is the problem, probably, I don't know how plugged in you are, sedimentation at the Conway Dam. And the other is the illegal water transfer at 3 Mile Island. Since the plant's been shut down, they've been ordering water. And we've sued to free the water up, which may be of interest to you. The third issue is the discharge of materials into the water. So I'll send you that, but we testified extensively on that. The reason we included you guys in there is we asked them to publish a list of their LOUs and MOUs. Susquehanna River Basin Commission, really important groundwater, water consumption, surface, but it's unclear who they have agreements with. And so these like artificial regulatory moats have been created. But for 3 Mile Island, for instance, if we're successful there, that's 12.1 million gallons of water a day. I don't think it would be used for Harrisburg, but it may be able to be used for others. So just to bring your attention, the rules are really changing. This is not just the domain of the authority, which was kind of what I got from you. Just a personal political comment. I don't have a lot of confidence in Telenovsky and Axel. I know they do almost everything. Almost everybody's audited. Somebody needs to audit the audit. I'm saying that from the school board member who had them before services for 8 years in the 9th largest school district. It's not so much what is said, what isn't said. So, I'm happy to meet with somebody off record to discuss that. I can also send you our comments to the SRBC. I don't know if they're going to reach out to you, but the letter of understanding, memorandum of understanding should verify what people do vis-a-vis water.
Excellent, thank you. Is
Thank
there
you.
anyone else from the public? And I will note, just in one response, we are recording this meeting. We do have a camera and a microphone in the center of us. So hopefully that will provide a public record of what occurred. And on our website, you go to our YouTube channel, you can see all our previous meetings. So I apologize for the fact that we haven't done a good job of communicating tonight, but hopefully the microphone picked up what you are not able to hear in the audience.
It wasn't the communication, just.
I meant, yeah,
For
the audio.
Neil, it's different because he's facing the west.
Yeah, no, but the point is that there should be a copy, and hopefully we'll find out afterwards. Hopefully the copy is better.
I didn't know we were being recorded. Please strike everything.
Sorry, it's emphasized. And the other thing I would say as well, the chairs aren't nailed down. So maybe what we need
Sit
to,
closer.
Yeah, maybe what we need to do
They
is
don't, they
figure out.
actually have wheels.
Yeah.
Not only aren't they nailed down.
Yeah,
Your wheel's broken.
Yeah, I tried to move on it.
uh-oh.
I believe Mr. Grover. wants
I
to-
don't know what else that's telling you, Eric.
I'm just raising the issue. You
Yeah.
guys are nice.
Just wanted to advise the last night council that approve the terms of a 4-year ASME labor contract.
Yeah.
That's about 3% annual raise in it. ASME had approved it before membership, and it's got an annual bonus provision. It was probably the most comprehensive proposal that ASME ever had. More disorganized in the past than leadership at the higher level. Very well presented and very well negotiated. So, the council did that last night, so there's that portion of city labor is secured for 4 years. And it was termed, so it's not next to an agreement yet. But there was a very detailed negotiation on many parts of the contract discussed in the years.
Does that just leave the fire? Does that just leave the fire contract up?
Fire contract expires at the end of 2022,
Okay,
and
Please.
they've already voiced that they are deep into their analysis. So we're going to come with a lot of things.
thanks, Neil. You'll be involved, right? Excuse me, Ralph?
Mr. Epstein, can I ask you a question about one of your comments?
Sure.
You said that you were involved in suing the SRBC. Is there a financial implication to your lawsuit? Are you?
No, I don't, so the SRBC, I don't think has an MOU with the NRC, and most of the work we do is nuclear, and I don't know that it impacts you. It's over the Clean Water Act. In other words, the Clean Water Act was really aggressively strengthened last year. And our contention is that before licenses were granted at 3 Mile Island, they had to be compliant with the updated Clean Water Act. So, potentially there's a financial issue, Ralph, for the people that bought the plant. The problem is ownership is bifurcated. And part of the lawsuit is that 3 Mile Island was owned by Exelon Unit 1. 3 Mile Island Unit 2 is owned by a limited liability corporation, Utah. So there's 2 suits, one to say you're not in compliance with the Clean Water Act. The other suit is it's not legal for a public licensee to transfer water to an LLC. So I don't really know, that's pretty south of where you're at. Without, getting into details, there's a large implication down the road. There's 3 nuclear power plants and a lot of gas plants on the river. And this would have to deal with how they comply when they shut their plants down. So it doesn't impact you, but yeah, there's potentially money involved. We happen to believe that water is a commodity. You got to pay for it if you're not using it. We probably settle if you tell us how much you need and put a shelf life on the need for the water. But I can send to Jeff, I have a little synopsis. There's 2 suits out there. I don't know if that's helpful for you or not. But for the city, I don't know how there would be a direct nexus.
Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? This is the public comment period, or questions from anyone in the audience about the ICA or anything else? We have 2 guests with us in the audience. Beverly, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, thank you.
Ms. Kelly, anything you'd like to add? Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Well, that brings us to the end of our meeting. One mistake that I didn't see in the proofreading of the agenda is that we're not playing Groundhog Day. We're actually going to meet in 2022 the next time, not 2021. Eric, I know you said you had to fight mobs to get in here, and I know it's killer out there.
It's Beatle-esque.
Yeah. Just on behalf of all of you who do sit through these meetings, we really do appreciate it. And we value your suggestions, and so please stick with us for 2022. And I certainly hope everyone gets a chance to enjoy the holidays and get ready for 2022, which will bring us a whole new set of adventures. So motion for adjournment.
Motion for adjournment? Mr. Hill?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned, 2021 in the books.
Cookies are available.
Yes, cookies, please
I'll
come
make
up
those
and eat
cookies,
these
'cause I'm not
cookies.
taking
We will
them
move
home.
away from the tables.
I'm not taking them home.